So the final element for our foundations are the spread footings that are outside of the grade beam, and these are sort of columns that need to be resolved. Their forces need to be resolved in the ground, but they're not within the interior of the buildings. These are things like porches or overhangs that are held up by columns. Those also need some sort of foundation. So let's take a look at three of these types here, the three instances that you're probably dealing with. One is a column into the ground, a concrete column into the ground. Another is a steel porch column, and then another is a shear wall column that is maybe on the exterior. So let's take a look first at this concrete one. I'm going to go into a south elevation, and let's just turn off the site. Yep, that's okay. And let's turn this to shaded. So here you can see I still have an architectural wall. You can go ahead and hide your wall here using HH. You can hide all of your walls if you need to, but this actually hides the structural wall here. But anyways, let me close some of these. I'll tile my windows, and you can see this column a little bit better. So this is this column. Right, and where do we need it to go to? Well, we need a footing down here. This is the footing level, the bottom of the spread footing level, and we need to pull the column down there. So the easiest way to deal with this is to just take the base level and change it to the bottom of the grade beam. And there you can see that this was placed essentially where the footing will go. Now we have to put a footing here, so let's go to a ground view. Let's go to a structural ground view. And that is this column right here. So I can take this and copy it over. I can redraw it as well, but I'll show that later. And you can see that that's actually at the wrong level, because this one was an interior. So all we have to do again is change that to the bottom of the grade beam level. And so they're snapping basically to the same level. One goes up and one goes down. So that is a quick and easy way to make a concrete spread footing outside of your grade beam. So let's take a look at this. This would be our porch column, and it's essentially the same method, but what we need to do is we actually need to encase this the steel beam in concrete, or it needs to go into sort of a concrete foundation member. So let's go back to our south elevation, go to the other side of the building here. I need to change this to a medium mode, and you can see that that is this column. So we're actually focusing on this column, but because we're in the south mode here, that's fine. It's in the same row. So, oops, I didn't mean to edit the family. I'm actually going to go back into the ground, and I'm going to create a column over here. So we're going to go to Structure, Column, and I'm going to choose one of my rectangular columns. Now we can sort of use a general rule of thumb for this as the same rule of thumb for the rest of our sort of spread footings. Try and get this to equal 2 times or 3 times the width of your steel beam. This is a 10 by 10 steel beam. It's a fairly large steel beam because this was originally a moment frame or something. But I'm just going to choose 16 by 16 here. This is actually enough to encase the concrete. I'm just going to show you with this one rather than recreating it. So here, before I place it, I can change a few things and check a few things, but I know I'm starting at the ground. I'm just going to hit OK, and we can change this later. You can either change it here, or we can change it later. So I'm going to go back into this 3D view. You can see that it went a little bit too deep. You can check it in a south view as well. It needs to go to this level, the same as the other column, the concrete column. So we're going to change it to bottom of grade beam. Alternatively, you can name this, might be a little bit less confusing to name this top of spread footing. You know, I just sort of went backwards, so we're going to change this to 0, and we can keep the top at the ground. So that's good. That is a successful column. You can now go into the ground, and you can copy this from column to column. And actually, I am going to not do that because we're going to show you one more method here. We're not quite done with this. We again need to place this spread footing, and it's the same method as this one, so I could actually copy this one over. Or let's go ahead and just go through the method one more time, which is going to go to floor, floor structural, choose our spread footing floor. choose the circumscribed polygon, change the sides to 4, and we need to make sure the level is at the bottom of the grade beam. So here we can choose this, and so this would be 8 inches. So we need 8 more inches here, so that would be 1 foot 4, which is 16 inches. So there we go. That is the same width as our concrete column. So we're actually looking at our concrete column. So I think I might have done that wrong. I'm just gonna draw it one more time. Circumscribed polygon from the center. No, that was right. So it was 16 inches. So there we go. You can see that that jumps down, and that's all we need. This is looking a little bit not beefy enough. So I'm gonna widen it a little bit. Actually, I need that to be let's go to annotate here. And this was what, 1 foot 4, so this needs to be actually 8 more inches. So let's use offset here, 8 inches. Turn copy off. Tab over. And there we go. So that's 18 inches off of each of these. Sorry, 16 inches. So that's looking a little bit better. There we go. So what do we do here? We actually need to do the same thing as we've done on the perimeter of our building. We need to resolve all of the shear forces here. Now walls resolve shear forces as like a membrane, so that will allow all of these shear forces to be resolved through the spread footing. Let's go to our ground view, and I'm actually going to create a wall. And you can also click this basic wall that you have as your grade beam. You can right click, and you can do create similar, and should adopt most of the identity here. Change this to wall center line, and we can start from the edge and go to the edge. Now one of the problems is it's a little bit harder to align this thing to a certain idea or a certain line, so I would go into like a west elevation. Let's turn the sight off again. Zoom in here, and you can see that that can now be moved a little bit more easily. You can also double click this, and you can move it an exact amount, like 18 inches, or sorry, yeah, 18 inches. That's fine. Let's do the same thing here. That's fine. Remove constraints, hit check. Then we're good to go. You can see that that's offset correctly there. So now we can take our our spread footing. We can actually copy this one over, do the same thing, or I can right click, create similar, draw the boundary, and offset it by that boundary, which would be 18 inches. And let's tab over here. Whoops. And there we go. Again, I didn't put it at the right level here, so let's go to a 3D mode and move this down to the bottom of grade beam. So those are all the different methods. If you have a porch and it's coming down into concrete, you need to put a concrete column right below it and a footing below that, the same footing level that you normally have. If you have a shear wall that dives into the floor, or that dives into the ground outside of your grade beam, you need to basically create another grade beam. If this is a wall, you can also just drag the wall or change the wall offset, just like we did with this column. We changed that concrete column, the base level, to be where we needed it, and added that spread footing afterwards.